Summers from Northwest Pennsylvania Oil and Gas Industry Hub, and he joins us this morning. And Lance, good morning. You brought in a very special guest with you this morning as well.
Well, good morning to you.
Good to see you. Who'd you bring in with you?
This is Vince Jordan. I'm going to let him introduce himself or who he's with.
Great. Yeah. Vince, good morning.
Hey, good morning. My name is Vince Jordan. I work for a company, TMG. We're out of Hampton Roads area of Virginia, which is southeastern Virginia. And we actually work for the U.S. Navy. Believe it or not, we're up here in this part of the Navy is actually very big up in this part of Pennsylvania in terms of manufacturers. There's hundreds of manufacturers across all of Pennsylvania that contribute to the defense industrial base. And so the Navy hired our company a couple of years ago to help those manufacturing employers get better at attracting, recruiting, hiring, onboarding, and most importantly, retaining the next generation of manufacturing talent they need to deliver the ships and submarines that the Navy's going to need over the next 20 to 25 years.
I don't think we're going to have enough time to get everything in here this morning because this is going to be a great conversation. Vince, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get involved in this?
So again, my company, TMG, we've been working with manufacturing companies for about the last 20 years. We almost exclusively in manufacturing, helping them understand what are their challenges and problems, not just with people, but organizationally. Our foundation is something called Lean Six Sigma. It's about processes. Everything can be defined by a process, and once you know the process, you can make it better. So about 5 or 6 years ago, we set up a program in Hampton Roads that ended up becoming called the Good Life Solutions, which was really about connecting educational institutions and those students, really, where they have the supply with the demand. The employers have the demand signal. So we really work closely with the employers to help them get better at that whole system of recruiting, hiring, onboarding, and retaining. And then we kind of manage this program. And the Navy kind of heard about it and then became aware that they needed to do some more work, particularly in one aspect of the submarine of the Navy business around submarines. And so they brought us in to say, let's go do something. We've talked about this forever. Let's just go try something. And so last year we started with a pilot program in Philadelphia where we identified 35 companies and we know that there's hundreds. Things like this would really be great to help us get the word out that we can go and help. And the Navy says you're a program of yes, if a company needs help, you go help them. And the good news is we don't come with a price tag. The Navy's already covered this, or it's already part of a congressional allegation. And so, companies that say they want help, we go in and we help them. There's two really huge criteria. You got to have a hiring demand, and you're willing to do something different. And if you can answer yes to both of those questions and a few other smaller questions, then we're right there to help you.
Lance, touch upon the history of the workforce here in Northwest Pennsylvania and its relationship, and this is a bit loaded question maybe, with helping the government in the United States, going back to World War II, maybe even before that, where you had plants here that got engaged in the war efforts and really did amazing things.
I think that's one thing that we don't realize here in Northwest Pennsylvania, how much of a connection we have had to the Defense Department, and just the sheer fact that here in Titusville, we have a company that makes components, and Vince will be talking about the type, what is going to be built. I'll leave that up to him. But it is how we should be proud of our history from World War II, because here, right in Titusville, there were manufacturers that did a lot for the war effort. But moving ahead now, we're looking at the current defense of our country. And people oftentimes think, well, rural Pennsylvania doesn't have a connection with the Navy. But in this last year, what we've found is there are a lot of industries here in the Northwest area that do have that connection. And we've got to make sure that students that are going to our technical schools, our career and technical centers, that they have the connection with the industries that are so important to the defense of our country. And yes, right here in Titusville, Pennsylvania, we have a direct connection.
Absolutely.
I mean, when you look at the people and the companies that are here in Northwest Pennsylvania, it's incredible. I mean, you've got manufacturers in Meadville doing things for air and space. Again, we're going to talk about what's going on here with the Navy. Vince, for you, this has to be pretty exciting to go around and meet these folks and what they're doing, and to get their feedback of knowing that they're doing something extremely important.
Absolutely, and as Lance said, the Navy has a huge presence up here in terms of its manufacturing base, and which is why the Navy, we built on the work that we started in Philadelphia last year. The Navy said, go to Northwest Pennsylvania, go to Pittsburgh, go to Erie, go to Cleveland, all those places in between. There's literally hundreds of small manufacturers in this area that contribute a specialized part, a machine piece, or something that's really critically important to the Navy, to the defense industrial base. And so the program that really brought us in is called the Columbia Submarine Program. And the U.S. Navy has basically two types of submarines. They have a fast attack submarine, which is the Virginia class, and we have strategic nuclear submarines, which are our Ohio class submarines. The Ohio class is coming to the end of its service life over the next 15 to 20 years, and they're going to be replaced by the Columbia class program. And in the run-up to beginning to build that Columbia program, the Navy talked to many, hundreds and hundreds of suppliers across the country about their capacity and ability to go meet the need that we're going to have as a country over the next 20 plus years to build not only these submarines, but a lot of other ships that we've got to do to recapitalize our Navy. And the consistent message that they heard from these employers was their biggest challenge was people.
Yeah.
People, getting them and keeping them. And so, which is why the Navy brought us in and say, let's just go try something. And so we as a country, we invest a lot of money in workforce development, and we can always do a lot more to get students in schools and in programs. We were talking about, things earlier this morning about welding programs, and that's all. We can certainly do more. But I think we've always done that under the assumption that the employers kind of were ready to go receive that workforce. And what we find, specifically in manufacturing, is a lot of those companies aren't quite as ready as they may have thought that they were to bring in the workforce of today. It's not 1985 anymore. There's not a long line of people waiting to come in your organization. So you have to be able to look at the problem from a different lens. And so to your point, that's the exciting part when we talk to these companies and say, there's got to be better ways. And what we find is that they're like, sure, let's go talk. Let's have that conversation.
And I'm sure what the government doesn't want to hear is, hey, I'm sorry it's going to take us a while to get this to you. I'm sure they want it, now, don't they?
Absolutely. And that's, obviously quality and scheduled deliverables are critically important to the two major shipyards in the country that deliver this submarine, General Dynamics Electric Boat, which is in Groton, Connecticut, and Newport News Shipbuilding, which is in southeastern Virginia. So yeah, all of these companies feed these over 1 million parts that are part of this submarine to one of those two places. And you're right, they don't want to say it's going to be late for whatever reason. What the Navy wanted to take off the plate was it's going to be late because I don't have people. And so that's what we really, really focus on, is helping these employers figure out there's a better way to do it. You've just got to go after it. And it's not easy. It's hard work. It's very hard work.
The other thing is that what this really illustrates is the need to make sure that young people understand the importance of a technical education and how that can benefit them. We've had such a long history, last few decades, of pushing towards a college degree. Whereas what is it that our companies need? They need that technically trained individual, a high-skill technical training. And that's something that we've been trying to bring in to Northwest Pennsylvania for years. And our original connection was that we have had a partnership with the Community College of Allegheny County and running welding and machining college programs at our local career and technical centers. So we're trying to make sure that all of the training providers in Northwest Pennsylvania are connected with this program, because that is potential feeder employees to the companies.
Yes.
So, kid graduating today doesn't think college is for him, but gets kind of excited about an opportunity like this. How long would it take to go through the training? I realize it could be different for various positions, but to go through a training and actually start working and receiving a paycheck?
Again, to your point, it very depends on what they're looking for. What we tell employers is certainly there's some foundational skills that they're all looking for. Hire for fit. Go in and find somebody that you think would be a good fit for your organization, and then train them for the skills that you need. And so we expose employers to lots of different opportunities to go do just that. There's lots of pipelines to get talent in. Certainly career and technical education out of high schools, community colleges are big feeder pipelines for entry-level talent. But there's also a lot of other venues to go out there and find people who really want to do the kind of work that you do, but they may not have the types of maybe historical foundational skills that you're looking for. One story we had from an employer we worked with around the Pittsburgh area, when we talked to their senior leadership team, we were asking the question about what are the types of talent and skills they were looking for, and they were very specific in their job descriptions about what they needed. But you go talk to the shop foreman, and he says, "I want somebody that's hungry to learn, that'll show up."
Yeah.
And there's a lot bigger population of that out there than maybe with a specific set of skills. And so it's really helping these employers define their demand in a very discrete way about really what is it, not just in the numbers, but in the backgrounds and experiences that they're looking for, and then helping them go find where they are, and then working with them through this whole process to not only recruit them and hire them, but the real hard work is to keep them.
Right.
Luke, just to go back to your question, you asked about how much time. An example would be a welding certificate program, which is connected to a community college. Mm-hmm. That should take no more than about 8 months. That's an 18 college credit program, and you get the certification and the college credits, which are transferable, and we always try to make sure that people understand that they can take that certificate and move on up to an associate's or bachelor's, if that's appropriate for them. But I think one of the keys here is getting these people a base skill, technical skill. The companies do a lot of in-house training because of the differences of type of equipment that they're using. That's another portion of it. But that this is a pathway. And there's another thing is, if somebody is interested in helping with the defense of the country, this is a way of doing it. Mm-hmm. You're actually working for a company who's building a piece of equipment, the Columbia Submarines, which there's some things I always found interesting. If you set the Columbia up on end, it's taller than the Washington Monument. Wow. So it's more than, it's
500 plus feet.
500 and something feet long. And they carry 70% of the missiles.
The nuclear deterrence that our country has.
So they go into the ocean and disappear.
Yes.
and they end up alongside of a country that's not exactly friendly.
Yeah.
Let's do this real quick. You're watching the Morning Drill on Stream Television and on Armstrong's Neighborhood Channel, and listening to it on the Allegheny News Talk Sports Network. Not to take away from anybody who wants to go to college. Mm-hmm. You go 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, I don't know. You're coming out with some major debt right away. Yeah. It sounds like here's an opportunity where not only can you get things wrapped up maybe within a year and then continue training if that's what you want to do, but it sounds like these companies are also willing to invest in that training. So not only are you getting a paycheck, but they also might pay for that continuing education. And Lance, I've heard stories around here where companies are willing to do what they can if they see a person that they think would make a good fit. And when I say that, I mean, I don't have a car yet. I don't have a job. I'd love to work for you. We'll pick you up. We'll get you here. We want you. Mm-hmm. How important is that? That companies are willing to stretch themselves.
It's an equal component. It's as important as you got to have the training available, but you also have to have a community that works on pulling these people in.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Vince, for you, are you finding that people are that are working in these with these companies and they're doing this work? Do you see the pride? Because I think that's one thing that we don't talk a lot about sometimes is I work at this company and we do this.
Yeah. Yeah, spot on, Luke. We we talk a lot, we hear a lot about, sell why you're there as a company, not necessarily just what you do or the product that you make, but why you do it. And we see a lot of pride in the workforce in these companies that specifically contribute to the defense industrial base about here's what I'm doing, here's how I'm serving in a way that's, stories, back from World War II, certainly the soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marine, had to fight the battles, but we would not have won those wars without the defense industrial capacity that we have in our country that produced all the things that we needed. And so we're beginning to see a lot of movement of pride in that part of the business that people are seeing and their contribution to what they're doing for national security today.
Well, we only have a couple minutes left. Lance, we could, again, do a 4-hour series on this, but Vince, for you, what should the kids take away, the students today take away from this conversation, and maybe those even in college right now thinking, I don't know if this is what I want to do?
Right. I would say that the takeaway is that, manufacturing is a great career path to go into. Certainly, college and other education, if that's the thing that you want to go do it. Go follow your passion. But it goes back to the origins of this program was called the Good Life Solutions. That wasn't the original name. It had a really long, confusing name. And one of the previous students had come in and was speaking to the next class and said, you know what, I was where you were last year. I was sitting in the class trying to figure, is this the work that I wanted to go do? Now I've got a great job. I'm doing really good things. I just bought my first house. My family's going on vacation. And I just bought a new truck out there. I'm living the good life. And that's really, it's just about a good, meaningful, well-paying job that you can love and that you can contribute not only just to your families, but to your communities. Because
take pride in.
Absolutely, absolutely.
An example, over the past 12 years where we've had this partnership bringing in the community college programs to the rural area, it's almost unheard of. But we have had, it's averaged out to be over a 95% completion. Mm-hmm. In these certificate programs.
Absolutely.
Getting jobs, and it's the same story. There's a young gentleman in Pleasantville that went through one of the programs, and every time I see him at the grocery store, he's telling me, I just bought my house, but I paid cash for it. Those types of things, and that that's very successful to get that technical training. And it's something that what we've also found is there's been a good many people that have gone through that 4 or 5 year degree program, come back and take the technical, because that's where they're going to get the job.
Absolutely.
Where does somebody go to get started?
Well, where they go to get started, we focus on those employers. So if you're in school today, what we would encourage you to do is talk to your counselors, talk to your job placement folks, find out about the companies that are in your area. And we really work with the companies in this area to say, you've got to get out into the schools. You've got to develop strong relationships with the instructors and find out which of the students would be the best fits for your organization and begin developing those relationships. So it's a two-way street.
Well, what Vince is really doing is he's going to the schools and working with the administration of the different schools, getting them lined up with one of the local companies so that there is that direct connection. Our role has been to get this word out from the Keystone Community Council, Education Council. We're the ones that have tried to pull all of the providers together to hear about this and then connecting the companies with them so that we're building this network.
All the best. Sounds very excited. Two passionate people right there. And again, Lance, they can give you a call if they have any questions or want more information.
Sure.
You'll direct them to the right spot. So.
That's right.
Lance, Vince, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.